I, 32-year-old male, have been married to my wife Kate, 30-year-old female, for 4 years, together for 9. Our relationship has been amazing, loving, and supportive. We have good communication, hardly ever argue, and our bedroom life has thrived over the years. We discussed cheating in the past, and I always made it clear that we would end the relationship if it ever happened. Kate went home to visit her family last weekend, which was fairly normal. Before she left on Friday night, we had a minor argument about keeping the house tidy, so our communication was limited on Saturday. But I knew she was going out to meet some friends at a bar. I trusted her 100%, so I didn't think anything of it. Before I fell asleep, I texted her, expressing my hope that she had a nice night. When I woke up on Sunday morning, I noticed that I had missed a call from Kate at 4 a.m., so I immediately called her to check if she was okay. However, she did not answer. After a few hours, I tried calling her again a few times, but still there was no response. Around an hour later, I received a message from her, stating that she was fine and would be driving back soon. Kate arrived home late afternoon, appearing awful. She had clearly been crying, was not wearing any makeup, which is unusual for her, and looked like a mere shell of her usual self. I immediately sensed that something was wrong, but she wouldn't allow me to hug her and barely spoke. I guided her to the couch and made her some tea. I gently encouraged her to tell me what was wrong, and she burst into uncontrollable tears for at least 10 minutes while I tried to comfort her. Eventually, she managed to tell me, intermittently sobbing, that she had slept with someone the previous night after leaving the bar. Upon hearing this, something inside me shattered. I can't find any other words to describe it. I immediately got up, jumped in my car, and drove off. I went to a park and walked around it for about an hour. Kate continuously called my phone, but I turned it off. When I returned home, I retrieved 2 suitcases from the garage and headed to our bedroom. I hastily packed some of Kate's clothes and shoes into them and left them by the front door. Kate was lying on the floor in the living room, curled up in a ball, sobbing. I called her best friend, who lives nearby, and informed her that Kate needed a place to stay and a ride to her friend's house. I explained to her friend that Kate would later explain everything. I told Kate I was leaving for an hour and that her friend was coming to pick her up. She clung to my legs, attempting to prevent me from leaving. When I returned home again, Kate and the suitcases were gone. On Monday, with a clearer mind, I answered one of Kate's countless calls and informed her that I needed her to send me an email with as many details as possible about that night. I emphasized that if she left anything out, there would be no hope of reconciliation. I received this email on Monday night, but haven't opened it yet. Since then, everyone has been trying to contact me, but I have solely focused on work, exercise, and sleep. One of Kate's friends came to my house with an attitude, demanding an explanation. I directed her to speak to Kate and closed the door on her face. Furthermore, I have been consulting divorce lawyers, transferring funds into separate accounts, and blocking Kate and all her friends on all platforms. Everything I have done since I discovered the truth feels like I have been on autopilot. I don't feel angry, upset, or particularly emotional. Just numb. Yesterday, Kate left a note through the door, requesting a meeting tomorrow, but I am conflicted. Should I meet her? Will it make any difference? Is there any point in attempting to reconcile? Is it normal to feel like a robot? How can I snap out of this? Additionally, when I initially came home, Kate confirmed that the encounter was consensual. She was drunk, but aware of her actions. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Do not meet her until you have spoken to a divorce attorney to see exactly what ending your marriage will look like. Do not meet her until you have a clear mind and are thinking rationally. Right now, you're probably too emotional. Do not engage until you have calmed down. Do not meet her until you speak with someone you trust and ask for their opinion. Only ask 1 or 2 people. Listen to what they say. She can wait. She destroyed your marriage. You take control and do what's best for you. Her trying to talk it out is her feeble attempt to make herself feel better. Hell with that. Comment 2. Besides asking her why, she will be begging for forgiveness. She won't have a reason why. She made a lot of choices that led to her sleeping with another guy. You will never trust her. She wouldn't be able to go home alone because you won't trust her. Your reaction tells me that you immediately fell out of love with your wife and immediately accepted that your marriage is over. She threw it all away, not you. Don't forget that. Now for the update. Thanks for reading my last post. So I decided to meet Kate. We met at a small cafe we used to frequent. She looked exhausted, and I could tell she hadn't been sleeping well. She started by apologizing again, but I cut her off. I wanted to know why. Why did she do it? She took a deep breath and told me that she had been feeling disconnected for a while, especially after our argument about the house. She said it wasn't an excuse, but she felt lonely and vulnerable that night. I asked her about the email she sent me, and she said it had all the details I asked for. She begged me to read it before making any decisions. I told her I would, but I wasn't making any promises. We sat in silence for a while before I left. When I got home, I finally opened the email. It was long and detailed. She explained that after leaving the bar, she ran into an old friend from college. They talked, drank more, and one thing led to another. She said she regretted it the moment it happened and tried to call me to confess, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. Reading her words, I felt a mix of anger and sadness. I could see her pain, but it didn't erase mine. I decided to take a few days to think things over. During this time, I continued to focus on work and exercise. It helped keep my mind off things, but the numbness persisted. A few days later, I received a call from Kate's best friend. She apologized for her earlier behavior and said she wanted to help. She told me that Kate had been seeing a therapist and was trying to understand why she did what she did. She asked if I would consider couples therapy. I told her I wasn't sure, but agreed to think about it. That night, I found myself reflecting on our relationship. I thought about the good times, the love we shared, and the life we built together. I also thought about the betrayal and the pain it caused. I realized that part of me still loved Kate, but I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. I decided to meet with a therapist on my own. I needed to sort through my feelings and figure out what I wanted. The therapist helped me see that my numbness was a defense mechanism, a way to protect myself from the pain. She encouraged me to take things one step at a time and not rush any decisions. Meanwhile, Kate continued to reach out. She sent me messages, apologizing and asking for another chance. She told me she was willing to do whatever it took to make things right. I could see her desperation, but I still wasn't sure if I could forgive her. One evening, I received a call from Kate's mother. She was worried about Kate and wanted to know if I could talk to her. She told me that Kate had been struggling with depression for a while, something I hadn't known. She said that Kate's actions were a cry for help, not a reflection of her love for me. This revelation hit me hard. I realized that there were things about Kate's life and struggles that I didn't know. It made me question if I had been as supportive as I thought. I decided to meet with Kate again, this time with a more open mind. We met at a park, a neutral place where we could talk without distractions. Kate looked better, more composed. She told me about her therapy sessions and the things she was learning about herself. She admitted that she had been hiding her depression from me because she didn't want to burden me. I felt a mix of emotions. I was angry that she hadn't trusted me enough to share her struggles, but I also felt a deep sadness for her pain. We talked for hours, and for the first time, I felt like we were truly connecting. I decided to give couples therapy a try. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I wanted to see if we could rebuild our relationship. The sessions were tough, but they helped us understand each other better. We talked about our fears, our hopes, and our love for each other. During one session, Kate shared a memory from her childhood. She talked about how her parents' constant fighting made her fear conflict. She realized that she had been avoiding difficult conversations with me because she didn't want to repeat her parents' mistakes. This insight helped me see her actions in a new light. As the weeks went by, we made progress. We started to rebuild trust, little by little. It wasn't perfect, and there were still moments of doubt and pain, but we were trying. I could see that Kate was committed to making things right, and that gave me hope. One day, while we were having dinner, Kate reached across the table and took my hand. She looked me in the eyes and said, "I know I hurt you, and I can't change the past, but I promise to be honest and open with you from now on. I love you, and I want to make this work." Her words touched me deeply. I realized that I still loved her too, and I wanted to give our relationship another chance. It wouldn't be easy, and there would be challenges ahead, but I was willing to try. Thanks for reading. Aita for telling my wife she needs help and making her feel betrayed. My wife and I, both 38 years old, have been married for about 12 years and have 2 kids in elementary school. She's the love of my life, and everything you read below should be rooted in the fact that I love her, and I'm trying to be a good husband to her. So basically, I pulled an Abed from Community. I started becoming concerned that my wife was bipolar because she would sometimes be extremely energetic, fun, and intimacy. She was kind and was this force to be reckoned with. Other times, she would become so argumentative, standoffish, unstable, withdrawn, and depressed that I worried she might do something to hurt herself. She always chalked it up as symptoms of depression. I love her so much, and it was obviously not fun for me to become her figurative punching bag. But I always had hope because of the other person she could be. So, in a moment of frustration after being told that what I was describing in a fight about her behavior wasn't even happening, I decided I was going to track some of her behaviors for a year to see if I could learn anything that might help, and to make sure I wasn't making this up. I didn't want a gotcha. I just wanted to see if I really was remembering things inaccurately, because I felt like I knew what was going on. But the gaslighting about my own memory was effective. As I've alluded to, I basically ended up tracking her cycle. From the time her period ends until maybe 10 days after, our average intimacy frequency is daily and hot. She gets a lot accomplished, and if anything, she's too ambitious about the number of projects she takes on. House projects, volunteering stuff, visiting a friend who's lonely, organizing family outings or extended family events, ... IT quote S. Like she has more energy than time to accomplish everything she wants to do. She's a wonderful wife and mother, showing lots of love and affection. I'd marry that woman twice. For the other 20 days a month, we have a sexless marriage. She's kind of just getting by emotionally, at best. She works out less and she is moodier. In the week leading up to her period, she's borderline hurtful. I try to get the kids out of the house as much as possible, so they have fewer hours with her and generally just stay away from her. If she was always that person, I'd divorce her. But I know that it's just cyclical now. Knowing about how she changes through a 30-day cycle has made me a better husband and better at anticipating her needs. Although, like Abed, I think it would be creepy to explain how I got so much more thoughtful. So I'm not the first guy to notice that his girlfriend or wife is harder to be around certain times of the month. And I'm trying not to be a Neanderthal here. I've got some life experience. I've been in other serious relationships. And I'm a caring and loving husband. This isn't normal. Her swings through the month are a much, much wider variance than most people experience. Your average person seems to maintain who they are, from week to week, with just a little change up or down. But she's like 2 or 3 different human beings over the course of a cycle. Should I be worried about her health? If I should, is there a way to make these worries known without sounding like a psycho who tracked his wife's cycle? I do think this has gotten worse as we aged, and after she had our 2 kids. I wonder if becoming a mother led to some postpartum depression and some knock-on effects. But I've never heard of period-onset bipolar disorder, which is what I feel like I'm experiencing. How can I take this random information I know and be the most helpful, least off-putting about what I know? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You share this information with her in a productive and supportive manner. You offer to support her in determining if these variances are beyond the range of being healthy and if she needs support. There may be small changes that can help. Issues with diet, sleep, etc. Also, be aware that women's healthcare is a sad, depressing, and neglected corner of medicine. It's full of ignorant, gaslighting jerks who delight in throwing up their hands and declaring the women seeking help as hysterical, imagining things, exaggerating, etc. It's pretty daunting. She lives in her body. She likely knows that her cycle makes her life challenging. It does for many women. This is what it's like living in a world that prioritizes men's healthcare and uses it as the norm/baseline. Comment 2. The one thing I'll say here is I, female, have always been exceptionally stable across all cycle phases. My mood or outward expression never changed, until one month I had some sort of hormonal imbalance and Oh my God, did I have a tough time. I thought women were exaggerating, but I get it now. I cried multiple times per day over really stupid stuff. Like my dog won't come when I tell him to come, when normally I cry once every couple of years. I can't even imagine how frustrating it would be to live with such mood swings every month. And I think she should look into it so it can get better, both for her and your sake. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments from the last post. So, after my last update, things took an unexpected turn. 3 days ago, my wife and I had a pretty intense argument. It started over something trivial. She was upset that I hadn't taken out the trash. Normally, I would just apologize and do it, but this time, I was already on edge from a rough day at work. I snapped back, and before I knew it, we were in a full-blown shouting match. She accused me of not caring about her feelings, and I, in a moment of frustration, blurted out that I felt like I was living with two different people. That was the moment everything changed. She went silent, and I could see the hurt in her eyes. I immediately regretted my words, but the damage was done. She asked me what I meant, and I hesitated. I didn't want to tell her about the tracking, but I also didn't want to lie. So, I told her the truth. I explained how I had been tracking her behavior for the past year, not to catch her out, but to understand what was happening. She was furious at first, feeling betrayed and invaded. She accused me of treating her like a science experiment. I tried to explain that I was just trying to help, but she wasn't having it. She stormed out of the house, leaving me alone with my thoughts and a sinking feeling in my stomach. The next day, she didn't come home. I was worried sick, calling her friends and family, but no one had seen her. I had to get the kids ready for school and pretend everything was normal, but inside, I was a mess. That evening, she finally came home. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept at all. She sat me down and told me she had spent the night at a friend's place, thinking things over. She said she understood why I did what I did, but it still hurt. She felt like I didn't trust her to tell me what was going on. I apologized again and told her I just wanted to help. She admitted that she'd been feeling off for a while, but didn't know how to talk about it. She was scared that if she acknowledged it, it would make it real. We decided to see a therapist together. It was a tough decision, but we both knew we needed help. The first session was eye-opening. The therapist suggested that my wife might have PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, a severe form of PMS that can cause extreme mood swings and depression. It was a relief to have a possible explanation, but it also felt overwhelming. The therapist recommended that my wife see a specialist to get a proper diagnosis and discuss treatment options. In the meantime, we were given some strategies to help manage the mood swings and improve our communication. It felt like a small step forward, but it was progress. The fallout from my confession was significant. My wife was more distant than usual, and I could tell she was still processing everything. The kids picked up on the tension, and I had to reassure them that everything was going to be okay. It was hard to stay positive when I felt like our marriage was hanging by a thread. In the midst of all this, I started to reflect on our past. I remembered how, after the birth of our first child, my wife had struggled with postpartum depression. She had been so strong, pushing through it without asking for help. I realized that she had always been the type to put on a brave face, even when she was hurting inside. It made sense that she would try to hide her struggles now. I also thought about my own behavior. I had always prided myself on being a supportive husband, but maybe I'd been too focused on fixing things instead of just being there for her. I remembered a time early in our marriage when she had confided in me about a difficult situation at work. I had jumped in with solutions, but all she had wanted was for me to listen. It was a pattern I needed to break. As we navigated this new reality, I noticed small changes in my wife. She started to open up more, sharing her feelings even when it was hard. I made a conscious effort to listen without trying to fix everything. It wasn't easy, but it felt like we were slowly rebuilding the trust that had been damaged. One evening, as we were sitting on the couch after the kids had gone to bed, she turned to me and said, "I know you were just trying to help. I appreciate it, even if it didn't feel like it at the time." It was a small moment, but it meant the world to me. It felt like we were finally on the same page, working together to find a solution. We still have a long way to go, but I feel hopeful for the first time in a while. We're taking things one day at a time, focusing on the small victories and supporting each other through the tough moments. It's not perfect, but it's real, and that's all I can ask for. Thanks for reading. Thanks, Aita, for cutting off. My brother and husband. After discovering their affair, stole is the wrong word because my husband doesn't belong to me, but that's how I feel. We've been married for coming up on 16 years. No one knows I know except for my little sister. I don't plan on telling anyone, at least not yet. It's all too much right now. I want to scream. Telling random strangers seemed like a better idea than turning the house upside down. We ironically have a wedding out of town to go to this weekend, but I told my husband I was sick, so he left without me yesterday. I can't wrap my head around what my next steps are, but I'm 100% sure they're cheating. My little sister finally broke down and showed me a video from my brother's private Instagram story of him and his friends making fun of my husband and me. He was practically bragging about having intimacy with a deacon. So I went through my husband's messages and found their conversations in his recently deleted, which were filthy. I've never felt more sick, and I don't know who I feel more betrayed by, but I want them to be too ashamed to show their faces in public ever again. Let me be clear that neither I nor my husband or anyone in my family is hateful. Do I wait for my husband to be home on Sunday and then tell him, or tell him now? Why do husbands seem to reach 40 and then suddenly freak out about aging and start chasing young people? Nothing feels stable anymore. Now for an update for those that care and some clarification. June 26, 24-1. I confronted my husband when he got home Sunday, and he broke very easily, told me everything. My brother tried to make it seem like my husband came on to him, but I had the screen recording of my brother's Instagram story. He cried all over me, and I almost felt sorry for him. He's my baby brother, and his pain will always hurt me. But I don't think I can have him around me, maybe forever. My brother said he thought it was just a joke with his friends that he could get my husband to send some nudes and that he never meant to go through with it or hurt me. But now I guess they have feelings for each other. They both swear they have never been intimate. I don't believe them. 2. Their affair started 7 months ago when I invited my brother to take my place on a ski trip with my husband and our friends. I had infection 19. I thought my brother would like getting out of the state, and I guess they bonded on the trip and started getting closer after my brother went through his breakup, and my husband emotionally supported him. 3. We will be getting a trial separation, and while I have agreed to get marriage counseling to help the divorce move faster, I'm certain I want the divorce, and nothing can change my mind. 4. We have no children. My husband can't have them. 5. No, my husband has not been grooming my brother, which I already figured because we lived in different states for most of his childhood. And my husband never had personal contact with my brother other than our family Facebook chat. I've confirmed this with my sister, who is much closer with my brother. While it's good to know I wasn't married to a child toucher, it doesn't change the fact that he cheated on me and also potentially put my health at risk. 6. My family already dislikes my brother as he's borrowed money from them and not paid it back. So all hell is breaking loose when the whole truth is out. But I am much better prepared. I no longer feel like the sky is falling. 7. My husband is bisexual and out to everyone, including people in our church. Our church is not hateful, unlike many. I've known this about him since we met, and it was never a problem. 8. Do I think he has other partners? Maybe, but at this point, I don't care. They can have him. 9. Thank you to those who gave great advice. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your husband knew your brother since your brother was 10 years old or younger? Was there ever any red flags throughout their relationship? How long has this cheating been going on? I would at least check to make sure it didn't start when your brother was a child. I personally can't mess with someone that I've known since I was an adult, and the other person was a literal child. So I might be looking at it through tainted glasses. Comment 2. Talk to a lawyer and follow their directions. Meanwhile, you have been married for 16 years and your brother is 26. Might want to consider that your husband isn't gay, but a child toucher who has groomed a child. Your husband's electronics might prove interesting to law enforcement. Either way, lawyer up first. Make sure that you are legally protected. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me through this. After my husband got home on Sunday and we had that confrontation, things have been well. I'll just get into it. I decided to stay at my sister's place for a few days to clear my head. My husband was a wreck, constantly texting and calling, begging for forgiveness. He even showed up at my sister's doorstep once, but she sent him away. I needed space, and he wasn't respecting that. On Monday, I went to see a lawyer to discuss the trial separation and potential divorce. It was a sobering experience sitting in that office and talking about the logistics of ending a 16-year marriage. The lawyer was kind but straightforward, and we went over everything from splitting assets to the possibility of alimony. I left the office feeling drained but a bit more in control of my future. That evening, my sister and I had a long talk. She confessed that she had known about my husband's bisexuality for a while, but didn't think it was her place to say anything. She also admitted that she had seen my brother's behavior change over the past few months, but didn't connect the dots. It was a painful conversation, but it brought us closer. We both cried and hugged, and for the first time in days, I felt a bit of relief. Tuesday was when things took an unexpected turn. My brother showed up at my sister's place unannounced. He looked terrible, disheveled, and clearly not sleeping well. He begged to talk to me, and against my better judgment, I agreed. We sat in the living room and he poured his heart out. He admitted that he had developed feelings for my husband, and that it wasn't just a joke or a fling. He said he was confused and didn't know how to handle his emotions, which led to the mess we're in now. I listened, trying to keep my emotions in check. It was hard to see my baby brother in so much pain, but I couldn't forget the betrayal. He apologized repeatedly, saying he never meant to hurt me. He also revealed that he had been struggling with his sexuality for years, and that my husband was the first person he felt he could talk to about it. This revelation hit me hard. It added a layer of complexity to the situation that I wasn't prepared for. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying my brother's words in my head. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and a strange sense of empathy. My husband had been his confidant, his support system, and in a twisted way, I could see how things escalated, but it didn't make the betrayal any less painful. Wednesday was a day of decisions. I met with my husband at a neutral location, a coffee shop we used to frequent. He looked exhausted, and I could tell he had been crying. We talked for hours, going over everything that had happened. He admitted that he had developed feelings for my brother, but insisted that they had never been physically intimate. He said he was confused and didn't know how to handle his emotions, which led to the inappropriate messages and the eventual fallout. I told him about my decision to proceed with the trial separation and the divorce. He was devastated, but said he understood. We agreed to attend marriage counseling, not to save the marriage, but to help us navigate the separation and eventual divorce. It was a difficult conversation, but it felt necessary. We both needed closure and a way to move forward. In the midst of all this, I had to deal with my family. My parents were furious when they found out the full extent of the situation. They were angry at my brother for his betrayal and at my husband for his role in it. Family gatherings are going to be awkward for a long time, but I can't worry about that right now. I need to focus on myself and my healing. As for my brother, he's staying with a friend for now. He needs time to sort out his feelings and figure out his next steps. I told him that I need space and that I can't have him in my life right now. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but I know it's necessary for my own well-being. Looking back, I realized that there were signs I missed. My husband and brother's growing closeness, the secretive behavior, the late-night texts. I was too trusting, too naive. But hindsight is 20/20th, and there's no point in dwelling on what I could have done differently. For now, I'm taking things one day at a time. I'm focusing on my work, spending time with my sister, and trying to rebuild my life. It's not easy, and there are days when I feel like I'm drowning in a sea of emotions, but I know I'll get through this. I have to. Thank you for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.